Welcome back to the Challenger League Korea for WCS 2's Season 2 of 2013. I am Wolf, with me is Kauter. We just saw Sleep, who seems to be terrorizing the Zerg versus Zerg matchup, do it yet again, and 2-0 Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes now to the up and downs, and Sleep will go straight to the Premier League. And we are heading into another mirror match. We have a Protoss versus Protoss up next.
Yeah, YongHwa versus Trap, and this one's really hard to call for me. I'm not sure who I really feel like has the better experience in this matchup in this studio, and I feel like that comes down a lot of it in Protoss versus Protoss because you get into the head of your opponent a little bit in PvP. You win a game, and then you can do something really aggressive, really cheesy in game number 2. I think this really could go either way.
I agree with you. I personally think that YongHwa is going to take it, but it's like they are on eye level here.
Yeah, I mean, this could go to a third game for sure.
Yeah. Our first map is going to be Whirlwind, so we have a big map to start things off, and YongHwa is a player who in the past has also played quite a few proxy builds, so we might see something like this today too. And of course later on we have another Zerg versus Zerg when Life is going up against Haiva, and then the last match of the day will be Effort versus Flash, so we're going to have a Zerg versus Terran to just close things for the day. But now, focusing a little bit more on the PvP, YongHwa and Trap, of course, quite accomplished players, and we have, I think this is one of the only PvPs that we have here in the third round of the Challenger League. If you look at YongHwa, though, he played only Protoss versus Protoss in the entire duration of the Challenger League. Like round 1, round 2, he faced Stats and Super, took out both of them. Now he's up against Trap, comes down from the Premier League, so I can certainly see him doing it again and defeating another Protoss.
Yeah, you have to give him a slight edge for what he's been doing here. He's been playing these matches in this studio. Protoss versus Protoss, been preparing for one matchup. GSTL long over for him. Doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Doesn't have to worry about Pro League. So for him, this is his one focus right now, and I feel like as far as preparation goes, you have to give him a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
Trap.
I mean, it's Trap here. We have him to the right, starting, of course, for STX Seoul. YongHwa, he did really well so far. I mean, take down Stats, that's already nice, but against Super, who played such a great season and defeated Koka in the first round of the WCS Challenger League here in Korea, it was quite the accomplishment to take them down too. So, for Trap, definitely not the easiest opponent to face here, but as we said already earlier, he has a very solid PvP on his own, defeated very strong opponents in the past. YongHwa, on the other hand, he's internationally speaking definitely the more accomplished player. Let's see what he can do here. Going into our first game on Whirlwind in the PvP at the third round of the Challenger League in Korea. Trap vs YongHwa, brought to you by Kauter Wolf. Starting to the bottom left of Whirlwind in red, we have the LGIM Protoss player.
LGIM YongHwa.
A ton more experience in Starcraft 2. One of the most successful players in the beginning of Heart of the Storm as well, along with First.
And he's going up against the Protoss from STX Seoul to the top right cross position on Whirlwind.
STX Seoul, Trap.
Teammate of Innovation. Very, very strong player. Yeah, we're cross positions as you mentioned, and this means that early pressure builds less likely. You know that build we've been seeing a lot recently, that proxy build where you go for stalkers and try to pressure that way? Not really a build you, of course, would see on Whirlwind, so it's going to be very standard here.
Yeah, that's a build that especially Huck probably hates quite a lot.
Yeah.
He played against Crank in WCS America, and he lost to him. Because against this build in particular, the micro of Crank just a little bit better in the scenario too. And Ahak didn't really seem to know what exactly to do against it. I think he already mentioned it later on Twitter that he was just a little bit like that he didn't have the perfect response here. But in this case, we have so far no proxies. We have the gateways in the main base. Question, of course, being will one of those players decide to go for a double gateway on such a big map and try to do a little bit of early aggression, or do we just have normal builds going into an expand, maybe a Stargate early on? And this is also one of the builds talking about Stargates, where you could see a proxy Stargate, but so far we don't even have a scouting problem.
Exactly, both of these players trying to be as economic as possible.
Here we go.
There goes the scout for YongHwa and actually for Trap almost at the same time. And right now both players are doing the exact same gas timings, and both of them are actually mining 2 and 2. Just now Trap adding 3 and 3, so he gets a little bit more gas mining, but a little bit less mineral mining, which means it's more likely that YongHwa adds the second gate, but he doesn't have to. They both scout the same place wrongly here.
And they should actually like have an idea where exactly their opponent starts. I mean, it doesn't really matter. They will see as soon as the probes meet each other that it's a cross-position game. But of course, the top right or bottom left would be the next position that you scout anyways.
Yeah. You know, I feel like one of these players is going to go Stargate just based on the gas timings here. I think YongHwa is more likely to be the one. Starts his mothership core first.
We have no proxy pylon on the map. With the late scout that we saw here, you don't really get that. But if you, of course, want to use that, there's always the danger that you are running into an opponent who's well prepared for the early Oracle and then takes it down. Oracle was one of the most popular openings when Heart of the Swarm came out, but then fell off the grid a little bit because Stargate openings with Phoenixes were just so good against it. But at this point now the probe trying to get those scouting information, but YongHwa is immediately being sniped here. And Trap doesn't even try.
Yeah. And you know what? Trap is also going to control the watchtower, which is really important. Well, he sends his Stalker up to the north instead to check for proxies. These builds are almost dead identical from these two, just slightly different sentry timings here, slightly different Nexus timings. The watchtower being controlled for Trap, of course, means that he can spot things like the mothership core while also holding the center, seeing any move outs.
Yeah, and talking about the mothership core, it's still active on the map here, trying to find those proxy pylons, but depending on the movement, could run into the Stalker eventually. Not gonna happen here. Both are currently retreating, and the attempt of the probe to get into the base to see that there is a Nexus should be shut down right away.
You know, I think he actually will be able to see it if he runs in, but he decides not to.
Yeah, and he should actually lose that probe if it's being chased. Yep, there we go.
That's that probe definitely should have tried to run up there. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe just a misclick there by YongHwa, or rather by Trap.
In terms of tech, both of them chose to go into the robotics, so still scouting on the main base. Very active. Trap is actually like sending his stalkers out everywhere to see if there is a pylon somewhere on the map. And we have, as you already said, nearly identical builds going down for both players here. Gives us a chance to talk a little bit about their accomplishments so far in this matchup in Heart of the Swarm. I talked a little bit about it earlier already. When you look at Trap's record, he has 13 maps played and he won 54% of them, so he's 7-6 in this matchup. The latest games that he played, he won matches against Rain, against Bisu, against Myung-sik. He lost to Lure on the other hand, whereas YongHwa, who I would say is still a bit the favorite in this particular match here now. He has already 21 maps played in Heart of the Swarm offline against Protoss, and he took 57% of them, so he's 12-9. And going down his match history, he won his last 4 matches against Protoss. He took out Crank, he took out Alicia, he won against Super, and he won against Stats. And just before that, the only, or a few of the only games that he dropped were against Squirtle and Parting. And that's, I feel, something that you can neglect at this point. Like, those guys are really strong. So I would give YongHwa a bit of the edge here.
Yeah, he also has the bigger sample size in total matches played, so definitely having that slight edge here. Forge goes down first for Trap. The robotic support bay, on the other hand, goes down first for YongHwa, so we'll have the faster Colossus. And I think that's a much bigger advantage than the Forge advantage. Just simply, of course, because the upgrades take so long to make anyways. He starts it instantly, though, which is nice for him. And there is a scout coming around the right side here. And actually, if he sees the bay, that's going to be really important because he'll know what different timings he can work with here. And he does, in fact, see it.
Goes in with the Phoenix hallucination. This is, of course, one of the great things that you have now in Heart of the Swarm, getting those hallucinations without the upgrade of the Cybernetics core. You still needed that back in Wings of Liberty. But now in Heart of the Swarm, Protoss has a few additional tools that they can use for scouting.
Look at that, a Stargate coming down onto base very, very early here. It is spotted by YongHwa. And this means we will likely see him take a third base and try to get Tempest out. Trying to isolate that Phoenix doesn't matter, though. He's already seen what he wanted to see. And, you know, this is a really interesting strategy. I can't see him trying to go into Void Race here. It just has to be for the Tempest transition.
Yeah, one of the things that you really have in Protoss versus Protoss, coming back on that scouting topic, is it's so difficult now to hide a build.
Yes.
Like, you cannot really surprise your opponent any longer. Even if you try to, like, proxy it somewhere on the map, once those Phoenixes are out, they usually scout, like, most places of the map anyways, and in your main base, there's just no chance anymore, even if you build it slightly to the left or right of your main. With Terran, yes, there are, of course, scans, but you can try to dodge those. And in this scenario, you can really see that we have the perfect information for both players.
And it is actually a Void Race coming out for Trap. Void Race can be good against someone who has Colossi a little bit faster than you because they do so much damage to Colossi. And he is also taking that third base, getting his Templar Archives up. Interesting choice, though. Did not expect that. And it's going to work out decently for him. Right now, Trap is about to run into Blink Stalkers, too. So Void Rays are actually extremely good against Blink Stalkers, unlike in Wings of Liberty. They just do so much damage to Stalkers that Blink Stalkers are probably going to be blinking away from the Void Rays.
Yeah, that prismatic alignment ability is just crazy, crazy good. Couple of pylons now at the bottom right for that one purpose. We have a Dark Shrine and a hidden one, talking about hiding buildings, but already a Stalker nearby, and that is so unfortunate at this point. Maybe not scouting what's going on. I mean, just maybe only trying to look for expansions here, but if your Stalker goes a little bit further down, he's going to see what's happening here. And he doesn't.
He doesn't see it. So unfortunate. Such a good attempt. Just continue YongHwa every few seconds. Sends a Phoenix scouting, verifying. Did you get a Fleet Beacon? How many Void Rays do you have? Are you still making Void Rays? Are you getting the air attack upgrade for your Void Rays? What are you doing over there? +2 on the way, a little bit faster for Trap right now. Those DTs could really do some damage though, because he's already seen with his Observer that there's no Observer at the third base. Could do a whole lot with that.
Yeah, and talking about Observers, we have for YongHwa 2 on the map, 3 for his opponent.
Just lost one though.
Yeah, lost one, so now they are both in 2 Observers. One is with the army of Trap, so he's moving out. The DTs could really do a lot here if they get into a good position. And the Dark Shrine is about to finish, as is the Blink upgrade. +2 has been started, and now YongHwa moving out onto the map here, trying to hit his opponent. A slight supply lead for Trap, also an army supply.
I really like Trap's position here. I think he should be able to crush YongHwa's army. YongHwa does not have charge yet, and without that, attacking into this with all these Void Rays and also the Archons is not going to work. If he attacks, it's a mistake. Sending the DTs in, on the other hand, is a great idea. Yeah. He's already seen with his Observer what's going on.
The Observer might just run right into the DTs. Oh, he's not going to see them.
Yeah, only if he was paying extreme attention, and since he doesn't move his Observer, I don't think he saw.
Yeah, doesn't really look like it. Doesn't get another Observer, gets into a position with his army, but it doesn't really look like he knows what's going on here.
Yeah, I completely agree. Phoenix here does get taken out, sees the army position. He wants to wait until Trap's army moves out. They're in his DTs in, and that's exactly what he's going to do here. Here they go. He sees the army move out. But again, YongHwa has to be very careful how he engages this, because he's up against so many Void Rays. Also, the Time Warps are going to be good.
I think he might not even engage, just trying to lure him to the side, and now the DTs move in, and they could even snipe an Exif if he wanted to. Now suddenly, here we go, and all those probes immediately being evacuated. He's moving in once again, leaving one at the natural. The other ones are trying to get into the main base, and we currently have the Mothership Core going down. Trap is chasing down the army of his opponent.
He really needs to deal with these DTs. There's 3 of them going to work here. He's actually going to stop charge with one of those DTs. Production is halted.
Not quite, because we have another pylon over there.
You're right.
But here comes the fight, and nice force fields against those Immortals, but those Void Rays are already at the front.
The Void Rays at the front. They already used their charge-up ability earlier. They're waiting a little bit longer, and it looks like just barely Trap was able to push this army back.
2 of the DTs are already down. Immediately Trap with the build. Observer in the main base, able to take down 2 of those. Another one is at the natural, but will die eventually. Whereas YongHwa blinks forward and starts to snipe those Void Rays, and suddenly it's Trap who's on the run.
Yeah, he's on the run here a little bit longer. He should turn those Immortals around to fight the Stalkers a little bit during those blinks, but he's a little bit too scared about the Colossus. The Charge Zealots running in as well.
Yeah, the Zealots here, the big issue for him, and they are going to charge that down eventually. There could be another forward blink to make sure that those Immortals are not going to escape, especially now that the reinforcements run in. The Immortal actually getting away here, but at the cost of a few of those Zealots. And here comes a second wave, warped in at the top left. YongHwa in such a great spot.
He's in such a great spot. You're really taking the better end of that engagement. Once his Charge Zealots were finished, he was in a great spot. He also did so much damage with his DTs, forcing the awkward engagement there by Trap. Trap desperately trying to warp in enough Zealots here to hold. He's going to have a good position with his units, but YongHwa retreating down that ramp turns the tide.
The army size alone, High Templars for Archons coming in. The Colossus still at the front, doing so much damage against those Zealots. And now Trap is trying to force his opponent back, but there is still a 30 supply lead for YongHwa.
He also has just a 4th base going up. He's got a 6 Harvester lead. He has got a Warp Prism coming out here. And cannons going up here for Trap to try to desperately hold, but I don't see it happening.
Great blink forward, snipes the Colossus, snipes those Immortals, and wins the game with a GG. YongHwa takes the first map in the series here on Whirlwind against his opponent Trap.
YongHwa just showing his better experience here. He's been practicing for Pro vs. so long. He looked like he was in a rough spot as far as compositions went, but then those DTs turned everything around. He took a bit of a gamble, and Trap almost even saw the Dark Shrine. Had he seen it, it would have been a totally different game. But as it was, the DTs came in, he felt like he was forced to engage, and he took a bad engagement when YongHwa had the defender's advantage.
YongHwa with a great game on map number 1. Of course, we're heading into the second game in just a few seconds here, and it's going to be on Newkirk.
Yeah, Newkirk Precinct going to be our map, short air distance. so we could see a lot of Warp Prism play or Stargate play coming in here. With some eye drops there. He's known for that. I'm liking YongHwa's position here. He looked very dominant towards the mid to late game there with his decision making. Trap just looked like he was trying to build a better composition, but he didn't really have much of a plan besides that, whereas YongHwa just executed these little pokes to distract the army, send the DTs in.
Yeah. Trap at this point still looking confident going into game number 2, but he has to win 2 in a row now if he wants to dodge those up and downs. If he wants to go straight to the Premier League here, the Challenger League, or basically at the WCS.
Yes.
So going into game number 2, guys, Newkirk Precinct is the map. We have another Protoss versus Protoss coming up. Trap versus YongHwa. And the LJM Protoss in the lead. Only needs another map to advance to the Premier League here. And apparently,
I accidentally picked Terran.
we're not gonna go in it to win it just yet, because for some reason one of the players decided to spawn as Terran. That keeps happening lately.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens, and the funny thing is, he also always builds like his first SCV, and I'm like, wouldn't you just immediately pause the game? Like, why would you build an SCV? As soon as you spawn as Terran, your first reaction is not to pause the game and say, wait a minute, this is the wrong race, but to build your SCV 3/4 of the way, and it's the observer who pauses the game.
It's always weird to me to see that happen. I don't understand why the client changes your race. Like,
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know how that kind of works out, but I think you by default just go in as Terran, and then you have to switch it maybe.
okay, that is just wrong on so many levels. I can't even express how wrong that is.
I'm not sure, but I think that's how it is.
Well, I'm certainly sure that they did not change the race purposefully from of Protoss to Terran. So for some reason they spawn as Terran here. And well, let's find out. We're going into the game again for the second time. This time all of them are Protoss. We need to make sure that Heaven gets a raise or whatnot. I don't know, but for some reason he doesn't make sure anymore.